Most of the time, Pokemon players ask themselves questions like, what Pokemon type is the best, or what is the worst type to use in competitive play? During my time playing lots of competitive Pokemon, I noticed that there is one Pokemon type that really interests me in terms of gameplay and usage, and that is the Poison type. The Poison type was introduced way back in the first Pokemon games, that was Pokemon Red and Blue, and during that time it wasn't one of the popular types due to having very little strength and being weak against Psychic types, which was pretty much the best type during the entirety of Generation 1. But fast forward to present day, Poison types were able to get better with new changes to the type chart, getting new Poison type Pokemon, along with getting brand new abilities and brand new attacks. In this video, I will be talking about how the Poison type, in my opinion, is the most unique type of all of Pokemon, and its rise from glory. With that being said, let's get into today's video. In Generation 1, we started off with a good roster of Poison type Pokemon like Venusaur, Gengar, Nidoking, and Tentacruel. These Pokemon are honestly good Pokemon to use today, but back then, these Pokemon were pretty much at a very bad spot, because in Generation 1, Poison types were only strong against Grass type Pokemon, had really weak moves like Poison Sting, and most Poison types were part Grass type, so every Poison / Grass type Pokemon will just take neutral damage. Along with that, all Poison type moves were locked as physical attacks and were weak against Ground and Psychic types. Also, for those who doesn't know, Psychic types were the best type in Generation 1 because there weren't any powerful Bug type moves to counter it, and Ghost types for some reason had no effect on them. The one thing that Poison type Pokemon became known for was an iconic status condition, which is being poisoned. When you get that status condition, you are taking damage every turn and it gets worse every turn. Another thing to mention is that Generation 1 stats for each Pokemon were kind of weird. There wasn't any special attack nor special defense, there was just the special stat and no attack and defense, just the physical stat. It's honestly really bad for the Poison types during that generation. It was honestly really weird. For example, Gengar is a special attacker, but Gengar has to rely on Poison type moves that only does physical damage to actually do something, which hurts Gengar in terms of gameplay and usage. So basically, Poison types were really bad to the point where it was in desperate need of buffs and changes. Luckily, all of that changed a lot when Generation 4 was introduced. With the introduction of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, the Poison type had gained a lot of great changes, which includes new Pokemon like Roserade and Drapion, new moves like Toxic Spikes and Poison Jab, and best change of all, every attacking move was categorized individually, meaning there's now Poison type moves that can do either physical or special damage, making some Pokemon like Gengar and Venusaur use proper attacks that utilizes their stats to the fullest. Not much was added into the game for Poison types after that, but it did left a great impact for Poison types. In Generation 5, two of the most popular Poison types were added, like Scolipede and the VGC meta-defining Pokemon, which is Amoonguss, because of its amazing utility along with decent attacks that were introduced like Sludge Wave and Venoshock. Poison types were doing great with all the updated moves and Pokemon that were being added to the game, but the generation that caused Poison types to gain a massive buff is one of my favorite games ever, Pokemon X and Y. When Pokemon X and Y came out, the game introduced the Fairy type. This type was created because of Dragon types being too powerful both in casual and competitive play. This also allowed the Poison type to gain another buff, which was being super effective against Fairy types, which was honestly really good. Another buff, which I would say is a temporary buff, was Mega Evolutions. This allowed some Pokemon to become even stronger with legendary-like stats. Some Poison types like Gengar, Beedrill, and Venusaur was able to Mega Evolve, increasing their stats and making them pretty busted. There was only one Poison type that was introduced in Generation 6, which was Dragalge. However, that Pokemon is really cool and has great stats, so I'll give it a pass. Since then, it seems Poison types started to get a lot more better as new Pokemon games came out, because in Generation 7, a lot more Poison types were introduced, like Toxapex, Salazzle, along with Muck getting a regional form becoming part Dark type, and new type of legendaries known as the Ultra Beast. The Ultra Beast had two Poison type Pokemon that were really overpowered in their own right. They were Nihilego and Naganadel, both Pokemon that was really strong and had the ability Beast Boost, where one of their strongest stat gets a stat boost when they knock out a Pokemon. One mechanic that was introduced in Pokemon Sun and Moon was Z-moves. How I think about Z-moves reminds me of fighting games like Street Fighter or Tekken, where in combat you could do like a special move with a certain amount of meter, or if you like get below a certain amount of HP. But in this case, you can equip a Z crystal onto any Pokemon and they can do a powerful attack only once per battle. This mechanic gave Poison types the edge in the meta because you can give a Poison type any Z crystal depending on the move the Pokemon has, and you can either do lots of damage or a status move that will give you a really extra effect. The last thing I will be talking about, however, is the last two generations, and how it allowed the poison type to peak further. In Pokemon Sword and Shield, only 2 new Pokemon were introduced, which was Toxtricity and Eternatus. This was really unfortunate because at the competitive standpoint, Toxtricity wasn't really used that well, whether it was competitive singles or VGC, and Eternatus is just a legendary Pokemon, which means it didn't gain that much competitive usage in like VGC meta, unless there was like the regulation where it allowed you to use like a restricted Pokemon. But yeah, Eternatus wasn't that much used, unfortunately. However, poison types did have another mechanic that was really good in the competitive play, and it was Dynamaxing. Dynamax allows you to make your Pokemon turn into a Kaiju, increasing the Pokemon's HP a lot and powering up attacks, but it only lasts for 3 turns. Every Pokemon is able to Dynamax, but selected few were able to Gigantamax with the new appearance and a new signature move. Gengar, Garbodor, Venusaur, and Toxtricity were the candidates of receiving a Gigantamax form. But out of those 4 Pokemon, Venusaur was one of my favorites in Pokemon Sword and Shield. I honestly love the design of it. It looks really goofy and it is kind of really strong. Moving on to our latest generation, Generation 9, the poison types were starting to get really good. Like, we got like a lot of new poison types like Grafaiai, Revroom, Clodsire, along with Paradox Pokemon like Iron Moth, Pokemon from the spin-off game Legends Arceus with Sneasler and Overqwil, legendary Pokemon like the Loyal 3 and the mythical Pokemon Petra. Oh my gosh, that is honestly a lot of Pokemon right there. The best part about it is that the majority of these new Pokemon that was introduced are really good, whether it's casual or singles or VGC, anything. They're just absolutely insane. And we was able to get another good gimmick in Pokemon, and honestly, I do like this one, and this is terrestrialization. This allows players to terrestrialize any Pokemon by changing the type of said Pokemon that you're using. A good example is a Pokemon like Swampert can terrestrialize into a poison type to resist a grass type attack, or you can terrestrialize a poison type into Terra Poison, dealing double the damage, becoming Terra Poison to increase a stab multiplier on a poison type move. In my opinion, Generation 9 allowed the poison type to gain more leverage in competitive play by being a very great defensive type and introducing a variety of very powerful poison types. In conclusion, from Generation 1 to 3, the poison type started off as the worst types in Pokemon because they were really terrible to use. In Generation 4, poison types got very good changes, which gave them much more to work with. In Generation 6 to 7, Mega Evolutions allowed the poison type to peak with having multiple Pokemon become meta, along with the Z-moves being playing, like, they were just honestly really decent. I just don't like them, but I can admit Z-moves were really good during that time. And in Generation 8 and 9, poison types peaked even further because of the new Pokemon that was introduced, the mechanics of Gigantamax from Pokemon Sword and Shield, the terrestrialization from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. They were just all awesome in their own right. And honestly, with all that, Pokemon gave poison types the greatest buffs, and I feel like they were the best and unique type in all of Pokemon. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Honestly, I really love talking about this because this was one of the types that I was really interested in using quite a lot in my time playing VGC and whatnot. So I'm actually glad I was able to make a video like this. I will be making a lot more videos like these in the future, and I have a huge ton of content that's going to be ranging from TV shows and animes that's going to be coming real soon. So I'm honestly looking forward to that. There will be more gameplay vids, especially with the Switch 2 that's going to be coming out months, like I would say 1 to 2 months from now. So yeah, that's going to be a blast. But yeah, I'm going to end it right here. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, leave a like, comment, subscribe. It is always appreciated. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.